All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Derch, and I'm here with Damonite because it's time to go over Axton and do his skill and gear guide. And why not bring in the Axton expert because he probably knows more than I do. So, Damonite, you want to say hi to everyone?
Hey everyone.
All right. So, should we just start with the gorilla tree? Go left to
Alright,
right.
yeah.
All right. So, well, I guess before we do that, we have to start with the turret. So his action skill, the turret, it's pretty simple. You deploy it with your action skill button. It's got a cooldown of 42 seconds. I don't know. Do you know the duration off the top of your head? I
Uh,
should have looked that up.
Not really.
But it's got a long duration, long cooldown. Fires at enemies, and you can reclaim it by pressing X, which I think they've gotten a little better in the pre-sequel with some of their characters. But with Roland, I don't think you could recall his turret at all.
Yeah.
So it was a progress from that one. Anything you want to say about the turret before we dig into the skills?
Uh, Other than I simply love it, not really.
Yeah, so like early game, I mean the damage of it does scale down as you go through, but the aggro relief is always good.
Yeah.
It still always does damage, but like everything is going to do less damage as the game scales. It's not just the turret. I mean, guns do that as difficulty scales as well. So like normal mode, when you start, it just kills everything, but it kind of slows down. But that's good in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's it's kinda good that it deals a lot of damage early game, so because Axton is like the character most people pick first, so that makes it pretty easy to get to just learn the game and everything because the turret can do some work for you.
and if you're playing co-op, steal a lot of fight for your lives, which happened my first time playing this game.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the gorilla tree, starting off with sentry, increases the number of shots your saber turret fires in each burst, as well as your saber turret's duration, which is pretty damn helpful. An extra 10 seconds at 5 out of 5, and an extra 5 shots per burst. This is pretty solid in my opinion. I don't really have anything else to say, but it's almost an auto include whenever I'm building Axton. I don't know
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah, same here.
Just the duration is huge for your turrets because you have so many skills revolved around them. But the extra burst is just good DPS. Ready on the other side of it, reload speed plus 40%. I think that's pretty awesome for tier one.
Yeah, it's a
I
pretty
mean,
big buff,
yeah. A lot of people don't recognize like how good reload speed is for your DPS, but it
especially
is freaking massive.
early game since it's one of the first skills you can get. And early game you won't have quite the best weapons, so just buffing their reload speed is a bit good.
Yeah. White and greens have lot less reload speed than your blues and purples
Yeah.
typically. And then we go to laser sight. Increases the accuracy of your saber turret, which it's kind of bullshit, right? What's
Well,
your take on this one?
laser sight, I mean, it's kind of difficult, I guess. So the skill does what it's meant to do. It makes your turret more accurate, but some people have the problem with it that it makes your turret track enemies slower, so it moves slower around, which I think isn't really a problem because most enemies just run from point A to point B and then stand still, and it's only really a problem for flying enemies or fast moving targets. But the thing is, laser sight, it's just a skill. It does what it's supposed to do, but what it does isn't really that amazing. It's
I
kind
guess
of
my other problem with it, I don't think the turret's that inaccurate. Like I know it's not like a sniper rifle, but I don't think the accuracy is on it that bad where
yeah,
improving it is a drastic thing you need to focus on.
yeah.
But that's all right.
It only really matters at longer distances. But then again, when will your turret shoot at enemies that are far away anyway?
especially when you have longbow. I mean, again, it's surveyors and racks and flying enemies pretty much,
Yeah.
which aren't that bad to deal with usually. Um, Willing on the other side, I think it's pretty awesome. Improves shield recharge rate and recharge delay. And pretty good buff size too, 75% and 60%.
Yeah, and
5 out of
again,
5.
for a tier 2 skill, it's again pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I kind of compare this to Maya's Ward, which I love. This doesn't hit the capacity, but sometimes this can be better um, better than capacity because there's that shield capacity cap where like your really high like turtle shields and high capacity shields don't get the full capacity buff when these don't have that thing. So, and it's always on. It's not like a kill skill or dependent on anything. This can get buffed too, right?
I don't. I'm pretty sure there's actually no class mod that buffs this.
Oh, that sucks. Oh well. So not much else to say about that, but I mean, Axton's kind of a shield specialist, and this is a big part of it. Onslaught is a kill skill, and kill skills last for 7 seconds. Killing an enemy increases your gun damage and movement speed for a short time. This one is I fucking love this skill.
Yeah, it's a major DPS factor for Axton, especially when combined with Metal Storm.
Yep. And I mean the movement speed's a nice buff. Sometimes it throws me off, like when it stops and starts. But yeah, the extra gun damage and the movement speed at 60% is huge, kind of allowing Axton to get where he needs to be.
Yeah. It's kind of like...
And just get to your enemies faster, kill them faster, and helps you keep your kill skills up.
It's kind of like Zero with his follow-through.
Yep. But yeah, I don't know if there's much more to say to that one, but it's the start of some of his nice kill skills.
Yeah,
and we can get into a rant on that later.
Not really anything bad about it, I guess.
Yeah. Scorched Earth in the middle adds multi-rocket pods to your saber turrets, 22 rockets per volley. Where are you on this one? I have some things to say about it, but I want to hear you first.
So Scorched Earth early on in the game, I think this is a true game changer because this can carry you through most maps in normal mode. Later on it loses its damage, but it's still pretty good. The problem I have with it is that it actually decreases the turret's damage by like 5% or something, I forgot, or 11% I think. Which I think is kinda unnecessary, but that's just the way it is, I guess.
So the thing that annoys me about, like, when I don't take it, I feel like I'm losing out on DPS on my turrets, because it's doing this in addition to shooting the bullets, right?
Yeah.
But then the visual pollution from it makes it so hard to see what I'm shooting at.
Yeah, I guess I basically always use it, so I'm kinda used to knowing where to shoot at, I guess. But I can see the problem.
I don't know. It's one of those things that annoys me. It's just, I've gone in games where I've played with like 2 or 3 Axtons and I just can't see shit. With like Scorched Earth, and they're all using magic missiles, and sometimes visual pollution in this game annoys me because enemies don't seem to have a problem seeing through it, but I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a price you pay, I guess. But that's my only little complaint about that. I don't know if other people had that as well, but if you're used to it, you're used to it. And a lot of Axton builds, like grenade builds, aren't that worried about critting anyways. If you were going to do an Axton sniper build, would you skip Scorched Earth?
I don't think so, actually.
No,
because...
you still get it? All right.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm I'm not sure how to explain it, I just got used to it, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I don't play Axton as much as you, so like there's times where it just gets on my nerves, but I'm like, I need it, but that pollution. Moving on to Able. Damaging enemies causes you to regenerate health for a few seconds. This effect does not stack multiple times, so 2% of your max health per second at 5 out of 5 for 3 seconds after damaging an enemy. I love this I have a hard time not taking this. I don't know if you're at the same place as me on that one, but again, I mainly play it end game. I don't really care about going back to the beginning of the game, and just constant passive healing. And I know this isn't constant passive, but it practically is for how easy it is to proc. And that just helps fight dots, and it helps keep you alive. And the whole rumor of everything one-shotting you is bullshit.
Yeah.
And this really, in my opinion, just helps with all those ticks, especially with Axton's shield regeneration skills. Like, his shield comes back, and then you're healing underneath your shields. And as long as you can keep your shields recharging, they're not getting to your health bar, and this keeps you good and safe.
Yeah, that's actually the point I was going to make. That if you combine it with quick charge, it's basically regeneration for both of your HP bars.
Mm-hmm. And that last Axton video I did, I had like that, plus the Might of Seraphs, plus the evolution, and just the constant passive health regeneration. There's people that commented like how fast that was, because when you stack that 2% with the 1% from the Seraphs, and then whatever the percent the evolutions give you, I think it was like giving me like 5-6% per second total, which maybe even a little bit higher, and that moves pretty quick.
Yeah. And what's also pretty nice is that while you're in a battle situation, you will have able, and while you're just running around, you have preparation. So basically, you
Yep.
always have health regeneration.
Yeah, I also had preparation during that. So yeah, that was another 2% there. So I was probably with the evolution and everything, almost up to like 10% a second, like all the time, as long as my shield was charged. It was pretty awesome. Next is Grenadier. I mean, there's not much to say about this, but an extra 5 grenades at 5 out of 5, and you can boost it with a comm to get up to an extra 11 grenades. I mean, yeah.
It's just really good for grenade builds.
Yeah. If you're not doing a grenade build, are you skipping this one?
It's usually the skill I use to get all the way down to
Okay.
double up. So I put 4 points in there because of Scorched Earth, and it just
Okay.
helps with just having more grenades to heal yourself with transfusions, or if you're using a quasar, or of course just with
Yeah.
fastballs.
I sometimes find myself skipping this without a grenade build because there's so many, like, I want Sentry, I want Ready, I want Willing, I want Onslaught, I want Able, and I'm pretty much kind of getting
Yeah,
down there.
I usually prefer this over able, but I guess it kind of depends on what I'm doing. If I don't need a lot of
Uh,
grenades, then I'll use able instead of it. But most of the time, I'm just spamming grenades everywhere, so I kind of like it.
yeah. Crisis Management. I think this is kind of weak for a tier 5.
Yeah,
I mean, the gun damage is pretty good at 35%, but the melee damage is, I mean, I really hope they change this, but I hate the fact that they kind of feel like every character needs a melee buff somewhere, but it's not
yeah,
enough to make him a melee character. And I don't even think that's a UVHM scaling thing so much. Like, you weren't really doing a melee Axton or using a lot of melee Axton at level 50, I don't think. And it is a little better, but
yeah. And the problem it also has is that it's kind of counterproductive because Axton has all of those shield buffs, and it's just active when your shield is down. So when you
yep.
use quick charge, you basically never have crisis management unless you're in fight for your
Yeah.
life or something.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. And like you don't have enough of these buffs to do a Rough Rider build with him either.
Yeah. If you could
So
boost
yeah.
crisis management, then maybe it would be worthwhile to make a Rough Rider build. I did that back on
Yeah,
level 50.
70% always on.
Yeah, that's pretty good, but just like that, it's not really. For a tier 5 skill, I don't think it's really that amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a problem with Maya's Mind's Eye being critical hit in melee, and that's tier 1. But this at tier 5, and it's got a exception that your shields have to be down. I just don't think the buffs are high enough.
Yeah.
And then double up. I mean, double up is fucking sweet. So you add a second gun to your saber turret and changes both guns to fire slag rounds. Slag enemies take additional damage from all non-slag attacks. And in UVHM, slag on slag is 150% damage. Or a 50% boost, not 150% boost. But yeah, I mean this I don't know if I've ever done an Axton build without this skill.
Yeah, I think
Kind
it's.
of like Rune for Maya.
I was just gonna say that it's basically Axton's rune.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just so valuable to have the turrets just slagging things, especially because the turrets are out for so long. It's just like constant slag everywhere.
Yeah, and especially in UVHM when you wanna focus less on damage, it gives the turret another purpose besides distracting enemies and stuff.
Yep, yep, yep. That's definitely for sure. So I guess there's not much more to say about that one. Do you
Yeah.
have anything else to add about this tree before we move on to the next one?
Um. Well, I guess it's the tree I always go down, just like with Maya's Cataclysm tree, just because of Double Up, because it's so great. But yeah, in general, I think it's a pretty good tree.
Yeah, and it's only really got one bad one with laser sight. Well, I guess two, crisis management and laser sight. So it's got two kind of skills you don't love, but the rest of them are so good. Like I was saying earlier with Grenadier and Abel, I sometimes have a hard time picking the skills to get all the way down to the tree.
Yeah.
All right, so we will be right back. I'm going to respec so we can talk about the next tree. So Axton's next tree is Gunpowder, which is kind of his. I don't know. This is kind of his gun tree, right? Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, I guess so. It's
Or I guess
his,
most of his damage buffs come from.
yeah, his damage tree.
So I guess start with impact. Increases gun damage and melee damage. Kind of like crisis management, or like I said, Maya's mine. So I gotta stop comparing things to Maya. But it's the always on 20% gun damage in tier 1 is really solid, but the melee damage annoys me.
Yeah, it's kind of unnecessary, but I think the gun damage just makes up for it.
Yeah, yeah, just having an always just stacking on all of his additive buffs, just they add up in a big way. But if it was like gun and crit or just any other secondary stat would have made it better.
Or
I
just more gun
still pretty
damage.
much always take it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just I would be fine with that. Maybe not 40% gun damage, but 30, 35. That would have been better. Expertise increases your weapon swap speed and aim speed. Also, your movement speed is increased while aiming. I really like this one, but I find myself skipping it sometimes because there's just so many good skills to get in this tree. I don't always have room for it. What's your take on it?
I just love it because for me it's a huge DPS increasement because it allows you to swap weapons much faster, which means you can slag enemies faster and generally swap to your second weapon or something a bit quicker. But
Mm-hmm.
I usually don't put 5 points in it, especially when I'm using a legendary soldier because it gets boosted. Uh,
Yeah, this seems like a good one just to do a 1 point in and let it boost.
yeah, but I think it's a pretty solid skill.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely solid. It's just, I mean, it's a good problem to have when you have so many good skills and you have a hard time picking them. Overload increases magazine size with assault rifles. It's 10% per level for additional 50% overall, which is a really big boost at 5 out of 5. But I don't know if that's enough for like an. I guess I have a weird thing with Axton being kind of labeled the assault rifles character when he's got one skill and one class mod.
Yeah.
And the class mods passive boost aren't as great as like Maya's cat. And this skill, well, it's solid. I don't know if it's really amazing.
For me, I think I don't know, I quite like the skill actually. I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, you're not gonna use it if you're not gonna use assault rifles, obviously,
Yeah,
but I think for what it is, it's really good because plus 50% is pretty huge.
yeah,
Especially combined with the rifleman, because that
yep.
also boosts magazine size.
The other thing I do kind of like about it, my two favorite kind of assault rifles with him, or maybe not my two favorite, but like two of the coolest ones are Jacobs, in my opinion, and then for him, the grenade ones, like the Kerblaster. And both of those styles have small magazine sizes.
Yeah.
So it
The
comes in pretty handy.
the ogre as well because it just
Yeah,
chews
it just
through ammo.
gets. Yeah, same. I guess same with like the Kitten and Hail. They can blow through their ammo pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, well, assault rifles have decent magazine sizes combined with all this fire rate. It is really good. It's just it is only tier 2 too. So you don't like if it was a tier 5, maybe I'd be
Yeah.
wanting a little bit more. But at tier 2, that's really good. I mean, 50%'s a big boost. Metal
And
Storm. Oh, sorry. Do you have anything else on it?
yeah, I just wanted to say that um, it also doesn't really take away a skill because you have duty calls down there, which if you look at the gorilla tree, there's no skill there, so it's basically um, I don't know, it's just one more extra skill, if you want to call it that.
Okay, fair enough. Um, yeah. So Metal Storm. I mean, this is one of his best skills, probably. Well, kill skills are always cool because they're kill skills. Killing an enemy dramatically increases your fire rate and reduces recoil for a short period of time. So 60% fire rate and 75% recoil reduction.
Yeah,
Those are huge numbers.
it's pretty good. As I said,
Yeah,
especially combined with onslaught and all that. And
yeah, and
I think the recoil reduction gets kind of overlooked sometimes, but it actually really helps with some weapons that have huge recoil, and especially combined with that fire rate, it just helps you to keep your um, to keep your bullets on target.
yeah, I was actually just going to comment on like the brilliance of adding that to that because when you up your fire rate, you increase your recoil too. Recoil is tied to fire rate to a point, and yeah, that's 75% a big number there too. I notice that, god damn it, sometimes with my when I'm doing like 10 out of 5 rec builds, sometimes I don't even like that. Like with sniping with Maya with rec 10 out of 5 for 100% fire rate, like it throws my shots off because the
Yeah.
recoil gets so bad. So yeah, I think that's really really brilliantly designed. So heads up there. Next is Steady. Steady's fucking awesome. More recoil, grenade, and rocket launcher damage. And he's the only one with the rocket launcher damage, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if Cell has something like that, but
Sal, yeah, if any does, Sal might, but yeah, it's a pretty rare thing to have.
yeah.
Um, yeah, again, more recoil reduction, and then the grenade damage is obviously huge. So the grenade damage and launcher damage stuff are both multiplicative,
Is
which if you guys should know what that means by now, but if not, I've got videos describing that.
is the launcher damage multiplicative? I never
It
actually
should be.
I never actually
It
tested
should
that.
apply like grenade damage. So yeah, maybe I should do a test on that and confirm that. I'll put an annotation or a note up on here to let me know beforehand. But I mean, it should act just like that grenade damage. It should come in afterwards because rocket launchers they get your basic gun damages. So if it's specific to that, I think it would be a multiplicative one.
But I guess that would
It might not
also
be.
wouldn't that also mean that Maya's cat would be multiplicative or something like that?
Fair point. I mean, the Maya's cat is definitely not, but yeah, I'll have to look into that one. I'm not sure, but Yeah, it's kind of a rare thing to have, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's basically just more damage. So
Yep. Not like rocket launchers need that much more, but it's definitely cool to have a separate buff for them. But again, I love more recoil reduction on him as well. Longbow, I mean, this is another no-brainer, isn't it? Saber turret can be deployed using longbow technology, allowing it to deploy it much further. Also increases the maximum health of your saber turret.
yeah,
Range plus everything, and turret health 110%, which is a really big deal.
yeah, it's more than twice as much, which is pretty
Yeah.
awesome for especially just for one skill point.
Yeah, I guess the one warning to people with this, if you're just getting this for the first time and leveling up an Axton, you got to be careful how you aim it. You can kind of miss your target. If you're used to doing that lob thing and now you're doing the longbow, you can
Yeah,
kind of throw it in the middle of nowhere. So you kind of got to aim at the ground where you want it. But that's a small little, tiny little thing for such an amazing skill. But I don't think there's a whole lot else to say on that, at least not that I have.
yep, it's
Um,
just pretty good.
yeah. And like I said, the health alone is worth it, but I love the deployment. I mean, I always do longbow grenades because they're better.
Yeah,
Well, Battlefront. So while your saber turret is deployed, you deal increased damage, 30% gun damage, 30% melee again, and 30% grenade damage. So this one, I'm less concerned about the melee on this one because the gun and grenade both are pretty awesome, but
yeah,
it would have been cool if that melee would have been something else. But I'm becoming a broken record on that.
yeah. So with Battlefront, it's really nice because it synergizes well with other skills he has, like Sentry or Resourceful.
Yeah. Just keeping it out.
Yeah, and it's pretty big buff, especially since you can
Yeah,
boost it.
definitely huge. Yep. And like I said, if you're doing a grenade damage build, it's kind of like Zero's CA, where like the fact that it boosts gun damage and critical hit damage makes that critical hit damage that much bigger. It's the same way with gun damage or grenade damage.
Yeah,
So tier 4 duty calls increases gun damage and fire rate of non-elemental guns. Damage 25% at 5 out of 5 and fire rate 15%. I guess where are you on this one? Because I have some things to say about it.
I'm really not a fan of it because I think the design of it is just not. It's not thought out because if you look at the game, most of your non-elemental guns you're going to be using are Jacobs, so that fire rate is already pretty unnecessary. Except for like Jacob's sniper rifles, but Axton isn't really a sniper anyway. And then the gun
Mm,
damage, I think 25% is too low, and if you're going to make it 25%, then it should be multiplicative, because it's just an
yep.
additive bonus right now, and it's kind of lame. It should be something like Wires Don't Talk for Gage or Strip the Flesh for Krieg.
Yep.
Then it would have been something really cool, but like this, I'm not really a fan of it.
You pretty much said exactly what I was going to say. Although I'll disagree on the Jacob snipers a little bit. I think their fire rate's so high that if you fire them any faster, you're going to miss all your shots anyways.
Yeah, it's a good point as well.
So like even on them, it's just it just seems like such a waste. And I mean, this isn't big enough to use non-elemental guns that aren't Jacobs. Like you're not going to go and run, a non-elemental Vladoff or non-elemental Doll or anything like that
Yeah,
because of duty calls. And then Doll too, that fire rate's kind of wasted. Like you don't get your full fire rate buffs with burst damage either. Or they kind of have a weird interaction. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. it sucks because it would have been so cool if this, again, maybe gun damage and critical hit, or gun damage is multiplicative, or if it's additive, it needs to be like 50%.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we agree on that. Do or Die allows you to throw grenades well and fight for your life. Also increases damage dealt with grenade and rocket launchers. I mean, this is cool. I pretty much always get down here and grab this one, I think.
Yeah. It's really massive for grenade builds, because if you go down, you can still use your grenades.
Mm-hmm. And if you're using slag grenades, you can slag without swapping and fight for your life, which is really cool. That saves precious time that you don't always have. Or if you're doing a fastball build, you just instantly get up.
And of course, also more rocket launcher damage, so that's also nice.
Yep. And of course, rocket launchers are a common fight for your life weapon, so it's pretty smart.
Yeah.
I dig it. And it's not too hard to get to it with all the good skills in this tree. But going down to the next one, Ranger. Plus 5% damage to gun damage, accuracy, critical hit, fire rate, magazine, reload, and max health. What's your take on this?
It's a cool concept, but it's just too low, because 1% for one skill point is basically nothing, and you just end up wasting points. The only time I ever spec into this is if I'm using a class mod that boosts it, and then I'm also just putting 1 point in there, because 6% for 1 point is pretty nice, but other than that, it's just wasted.
Yeah, in the pre-sequel, Jack's got a skill like this. Is that not leadership? God damn it, what's the name of that? Accountability? But it's kind of, I think it's tier 5 on his left center tree. I forget the name of it, but I think it boosts 4 skills only, and they're all like 20-25%. It's like gun damage, fire rate, reload speed, and something else. Like it's crate and accuracy. It's like it's insanely good. And this one is just not very good.
I mean, Wilhelm actually also has a skill like this in his middle tree. It's called Welcome to the Gun Show. Yeah, it's much better. I think it also,
so at least they learned from it.
It also only boosts gun damage, accuracy, recoil, and something else I forgot. But it's pretty massive. And it's basically just Ranger but good. So I guess they learned from it.
Yeah. The accuracy at 5% too, like you're never gonna notice a 5% accuracy buff.
Yeah.
Like these are all just, I mean, if at 5 out of 5, if they were all 10%, would that be worth it? Then you could boost it for 20%.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty nice. But yeah, 5% or 10% when you're boosting it, it's just, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. And then nuke. Deploying your saber turret sets off a small nuclear blast. Which, well, I guess I'll start with nuke. I know the damage of this didn't scale the greatest, but I've still seen people run around in OP8 and at least kill trash mobs really reliably with it. Coontail had a build for a while where it was pretty much like a nuke build, where he would do Gemini and nuke, and he would just deploy his turrets, blow shit up, instantly recall them back, so you can throw them both out like 5 seconds later. And it was almost like a grenade spam.
Yeah,
and you're just knocking everything all over the place, and it killed pretty reliably doing that.
I actually made a build similar to that. I think I even made a video about it. So I guess it can work, but I don't know.
I don't often go down here to get this capstone, if I'm honest. Especially because duty calls and Rangers isn't that good, so I kind of stop at do or die. I mean, I often have enough points to go a little bit deeper because there's so many good skills. But yeah, I don't invest into it that often.
Yeah. But I guess what's worth noting is that since you can get this at the end of normal mode usually and at the start of TVHM, this thing is gonna be a massive, uh, massive, just one-shot killing tool. It's
Yeah.
just gonna blow up everything.
And there's something to be said about the knockback. That's really good too.
Yeah, that as well.
I guess the drawback of it to a point, like, it's the fact that it's a long duration action skill with a long cooldown, so it doesn't go off that often unless you're doing like a spam build just for it.
Yeah.
You know, like Converge on Maya is awesome because it just always goes off, but Nuke rarely goes off. So,
By the way, I apologize for my birds.
oh, that's fine. I'm used to that stuff. I often have windows open with birds chirping in the background. Anything else to say about this tree?
Um, Not really, but I guess about Nuke again. At OP8, while the damage isn't that great, I sometimes use it just because when you deploy your turret, it knocks everything back and it gives you some time to breathe and slag enemies while they're stunned or something.
Yep.
So that's also a big part of it,
Yeah.
I think.
That sometimes people don't recognize that as after an enemy has been pulled or knocked back, they have like a second or two before they kind of recover from it and
Yeah.
start shooting you again. So, yep, that's legit. All right, so ready? We'll respec and go on to the next tree.
Alright.
All right, so last here we have the survival tree. I should probably put on a com that doesn't go into it.
Same
All
here.
right, so yeah, my backpack's maxed out, so I can't drop a com. So starting off with healthy, max health plus 30%. This is about as straightforward as it gets. Now, I'm going to take the lead on this, and health stacking is not always bad, people. I know people tell you that, but if you're watching this video, you've probably watched a lot of my videos. Hopefully, if you're new to this channel, go watch more of my videos. But I do a lot of mobbing, and I don't think more than 5, maybe 10%. 10% I even think is really stretching it. Well, 5% of the attacks that come your way might be able to health gate you. So to build with low health because of that, doesn't really make sense to me. Like, you can be more survivable with max health. In fact, you can stack your health so much that Novas from Hyperius or Vora doesn't even health gate you. I've seen Spunky do it, and with like blockades, you can do it. So yeah, health stacking can increase your survival. And if you have percentage-based healing, like preparation and able, that means you're getting more health back per second. And again, in OP8, one of the most dangerous things are you getting a dot on you. And dots don't care how much health you have for how much damage they do. So the more health you have, the more chance you have to survive a dot. When you go with low health builds, dots are an instant death sentence. But if you've got some health stacking, maybe some passive health regeneration, you can survive dots pretty reliably. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that the thing about people saying that health stacking is bad, I guess they say it for two reasons. One being that you're getting health gated all the time, which you just said isn't true, of course. And the other reason would be for healing with Moxie weapons or transfusions. And I guess that's kinda understandable at OP8 if you're constantly using stuff like that. Especially
Yeah.
because your health doesn't scale. But other than that, really, health stacking does work, and Axton can do that pretty well. I've done it before as well. So yeah.
And if you're doing grog to heal though, your damage to health is already so ridiculous that you're gonna heal the full even health stacking usually if
Yeah.
you're doing the grog. Like maybe not as much with like the kitten and hail and some of that stuff. But yeah, I don't think the lifesteal is that big of a deal unless you're using like maybe like the share on me or some of that stuff. But like I guess I feel it a little bit with like the slow hand and some of those guns, but um yeah, that's a valid point on that.
Yeah,
And if you're doing raid bosses, typically you're going to be doing health gate builds because those are when you are getting health gated.
yeah. I usually don't spec into this because I'm mostly just using transfusions. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it can definitely work, and yes, as you basically said, it's definitely not true that enemies kill you in 2 or 3 hits.
Yeah.
Because if they do that, then you're doing something wrong.
Yep. And yeah, it's not a must-have, but I don't think it's a bad tier one either.
Yeah, it's 30%
And
for
it's
it's
pretty
not that
solid.
massive, but for a tier one, especially since you can get it right away, I think it's pretty good.
Yep. Preparation. Now this is an awesome skill, I think. And that's probably why you don't always get healthy, because if you're going down this tree, preparation. So it increases your shield capacity, and also while your shield is full, you regenerate health. And at 5 out of 5, it's 15% shield capacity and 2% max health per second while your shields are full. So yeah, this is just a damn good survival skill. I mean, more shield capacity is always welcome, and yeah, regenerating health underneath it is pretty damn solid too.
Yeah. I guess the shield capacity isn't really that impressive because 15%, and then you also have the thing with your shield capacity boost cap. Um,
But do you often run into that with 15%? Like I know on Ward I run into that, but that's like I think 40%. It's a lot higher.
well, not with 15%, but since I'm mostly using the legendary soldier, you get 30% out of that.
Ah, yeah.
But yeah, either way, just the health regeneration is already worth it, I think.
Hmm. And it's easy for Axton to get his shields up,
Yeah,
especially with again willing that recharge delay boost on that is so big. And the next one, last ditch effort, increases your gun damage and movement speed while in fight for your life. 40% damage and 70% move speed. I don't often really get into this one, and it's not because it's bad. It's just I'd rather have other stuff, and I don't have that much of a problem getting out of fight for my life with Axton.
yeah. I guess part of that is that he already has do or die, which
Mm-hmm.
in some cases is all you need. Um,
Yep.
but the skill itself, I really like the idea of it, but I think the problem it has is that it's just, I don't know, it's just in Borderlands 2 you have fight for your life and you can't really make a build around that unless you're Creek maybe, but if you're going down constantly with Axton, at some point you'll just die instantly. And I kind of would love to make a suicide Axton build, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um,
Like yeah, it's not quite like as strong as Immolate's damage buff.
yeah,
The movement speed is nice. Like when enemies are at a hard to reach spot, you have a chance to reposition to get to them. But yeah, not necessary, but not bad. Pressure. This is another reason I think pressure is really good, and to go down this tree, I'm probably going to grab that. Improves your reload speed and shield recharge delay based on how much health you have. The lower your health, the higher the bonuses. And usually I don't like these kind of skills, but at 5 out of 5, it's 70% reload and 60% shield recharge delay. And those are some pretty big numbers.
and it can get boosted.
Yep, and it can get boosted. Like I complained about one of these skills with Aurelia, but her numbers were like in the 30s for
Yeah,
that stuff. Like
and it
these
was
are really good
tier
numbers.
5, I think.
Yep. So at tier 2, again, I think what makes this really good is shield recharge delay, especially because when your health is low, that's when your shield recharge delay is more
Yeah.
important. And with 60% here and another 60% from willing, that's 120% shield recharge delay. That's ridiculously good. And that's at both of those at 5 out of 5. That's not boosted.
Yeah.
If pressure is boosted or one of the two boosted, you have 180%. That's basically turning any shield into a Tediore shield.
And I think pressure is also the reason why I rarely use last ditch effort. Because pressure works both in fight for your life and outside of it. So you get that DPS increasement in fight for your life as well. So it
Yep.
kinda overshadows last ditch effort in my opinion.
I'm also a sucker for any skill that has both survival and DPS on it. I love those. I'm a big fan of survival skills, obviously, if you know me. So, yeah, I really love pressure, especially again boosted. It's crazy. And Axton's reload speed buffs are. Does he have the highest reload buffs in the game, or does Krieg outdo him with his stacks?
I tested it
I
a
think,
while ago. I think it was Krieg.
yeah, I think Krieg outdoes it a little bit, but
Yeah, but
he's got to
Krieg,
build a lot of stacks to do that.
yeah, Krieg has to do a lot of setting up.
And Axton's they're just kind of on.
Yeah.
Um, Forbearance is next then. Reduces the duration of enemy elemental status effects on you, additionally increases maximum health. Some people will shit on this. I don't mind it at all because, again, dots in OP8 are one of the most dangerous things. 40% less duration matters. The health bonus, I think, is a little too small. 5% is tiny.
Yeah, it's basically Ranger again.
Yeah. But I, I've don't well, I don't always spec into this, but I have on certain builds because I'm scared of dots. So I don't know what you where you stand on this one.
I usually don't spec into it just because I don't have the points for it and I prefer quick charge over it. But I
Mm-hmm.
think especially in the end game this can be a really solid skill because as you said the dots can be some of the most lethal attacks. So this can get really great. But yeah,
If you're farming for a Cobra, this is the best skill in the game.
but I just prefer other skills. But it's
Yeah,
pretty
that's
solid.
fair enough. So Phalanx Shield, your saber turret projects a protective shield. The shield attempts to block enemy ranged attacks, but lets friendly ranged attacks pass through it. Enemy movement and melee attacks are not affected. This to me is always a no-brainer. It just lets your turrets survive more.
Yeah, well, failing shield is it's kinda the skill I've been telling people to not use recently a
Really?
lot. Yeah, because
See, this is why I have you here.
it suffers from two major problems basically. So first of all, in the early game, this is pretty good. It just, as you said, it makes your turret a bit tankier, and you can also stand under it, so it gives you more survivability. But the problem it has is definitely its scaling, because the scaling of it is pretty horrible to be honest. At
Okay.
OP8 it usually just gets downed in a couple of seconds or less. And then the other problem it suffers from is that it doesn't actually have it doesn't work like a shield in the way that it is resistant to corrosive and fire damage and weak to shock. It just doesn't
Okay.
have any weaknesses or yeah, it doesn't have
Strength.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
fair enough. But even though it's just 1 point.
yeah. Well, then you have maglock below it, and I
Yeah.
just I don't know. I really never used this in the end game
Okay.
because
I think I'm just so used to like taking it.
yeah, I mean
But yeah.
it does still have its uses because if you combine it with Maglock, then you already have I don't know, maybe I should talk about this when we get to Maglock, but I guess I'll just say it
Yeah.
now. Since you
All
can
right.
put your
We'll continue it
turrets
there
or
in a safe spot.
uh yeah, since your turret is somewhere else, melee enemies can't reach it, so that kinda helps Failing's shield. But yeah, it just gets destroyed too quickly in my opinion.
All right. Fair enough. Quick charge. Kill skill. Killing enemies causes your shields to quickly regenerate for a short time. A lot of characters have skills like this. I mean, Inertia on Maya, um, Grim on Zero, Axton here.
Gage
I
also has
mean,
one.
yep. I mean, I love these skills. Again, they really help fight against dots, and I can be a broken record here, but dots are some of the most dangerous things in OP8. And if you can just kill an enemy, this goes on while the dot's ticking against you, which makes it a lot harder for that dot to kill you. And anything to keep your shield recharging is a damn good thing.
Yeah, so the thing about this one is compared to Maya's, Zero's, or Gage skills, it's just shield regeneration, while the other
Yep.
skills have something else as well. But therefore, it's the highest regeneration percentage of them all, and I think that kind of makes up for it.
Yeah. Is this one boostable
Yep, it
from a
is.
com? So I don't think Zeros or Mayas are boostable. I know Maya's is not. I don't think Grim is ever boostable either. So that might be part of it too. Because this at 10% a second, that's insane.
Yep. And that's also
Oh,
kind of a reason why I don't use forbearance, because with a good shield you can just outdo dots.
yep. That's a fair point. And yeah, you can just be over putting points in survival at that point. So next tier for resourceful, cooldown rate 5 out of 5, 25%. Whenever I can get this deep, I try to get this, but there's a lot of times I do builds with Axton where I don't get this deep in the tree,
Yeah, same here.
and yeah, but Axton kind of needs cool. I don't know if needs is the right word, but Axton likes cooldown more than a lot of people because he's got such a long one, and he's really reliant on his turrets. Like, well, again, I don't know if reliance is the right word, but he's a lot better with his turrets out, so you want them out all the time, and it's long duration, long cooldown. So cooldown's important, but yeah, sometimes I have a hard time getting here because I want to go down and get double up, and I want to put a lot of points into
Yeah,
gunpowder because there's so much DPS there.
I think this skill should have been like maybe tier 2 or tier 3, just so it's easier to get there, or maybe even tier 1, and don't give it as much of a percentage boost.
Yeah, maybe. I was gonna say tier 1 cooldown might be broken, but
Yeah.
so Maglock allows Saber Turret to be deployed on walls and ceilings. As I don't do it right there because I don't have longbow. But so yeah, you were gonna continue your talk about the shield here. All right, there's a good example. So
Uh,
yeah, when it's up like that, it's got a lot better chance of keeping the shield for a lot longer, right?
yeah, because basically, when it's on the ground, you have melee enemies just passing through the shield, and it
Yep.
doesn't really do anything. But when it's somewhere else, melee enemies can't reach it, so they have to throw something at your turret, and that means they have to go through the shield. So in
Mm-hmm.
theory, that works really well, and it works really well in mid or early game. But in the end game, it's just too low to make a difference, in my opinion.
So outside of the shield, though, how about Maglock? Is that
Uh,
kind of like a big have for you?
it's almost like a must-have in my opinion.
Okay.
Um, the only time I don't use this is when I spec into nuke, because then I usually just throw my turret at the ground. But other than
Yep.
that, I think Maglock is just amazing, because it gives your turret so much survivability if used right, and especially when combined with longbow turret,
Yep.
you can really master your turret placement.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was just lobbing it there and it kind of got low, but I could put it up there where I'm shooting the sword explosion with longbow easily. And also like a lot of the enemies in this game have very poor accuracy, so if you had the turret kind of up there, they're gonna have a harder time hitting it, even though
Yeah.
it's standing still. If they have shotguns or any of that stuff.
And
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I love Maglock. I've seen some Axton players. I mean, obviously, there's that video we don't need to talk about anymore. But Blute used to not like Maglock either because he would sometimes throw it in places and it would get stuck or it wouldn't go right. But I mean, I put that down to player skill, not
yeah.
bad on the skill itself. I mean, I've fucked up with Maglock plenty of times, put it in a bad spot, but I don't put that on the skill. I put that on my skill as an Axton player.
I think what's also worth noting about it is that it synergizes really well with longbow turret, as I said, but also with double up. Because if you have an enemy behind cover, you can just throw your turrets at either the ceiling or at some kind of wall, and it will be able
Mm-hmm.
to still shoot at that enemy and slag him for you. So yeah, I think Maglock is just really amazing.
Yep. That's a good point. And that's, yeah, I guess the other thing to say, kind of emphasize on that more. When you get it at a higher ground, it's got a better vantage point to hit more enemies. So, yep, that's another bonus to it.
It kind of adds
Um,
a new element to the game, in my opinion.
yep.
Just thinking about
Um,
where to place your turret and everything.
actually, before I move on to grit, one more thing with the shield, where I'm kind of asking, not fighting you on it. Because it does block enemy fire, there has been times where I put my turret out like I'm taking damage. I put my turret out just to stop that enemy fire from being able to hit me for a little bit.
Yeah, it does have some uses, as I said. Sometimes you have like an enemy um, with like a rocket launcher or something, and you just want to block that one attack, so you can throw
Mhm.
your turret and it will block that. But another point I forgot to mention actually is that um, in terms of turret survivability, it kinda gives the turret a larger hitbox, if you know what I mean. So
Okay,
if an
yeah,
enemy would miss the turret, it will still hit Failing's
the
shield
shield.
and
Yep,
drain its capacity.
and the shield only takes a few hits and it's down, or
Yeah.
sometimes one. All right, fair enough. I think I'm done with the shield then. I just wanted that one point popped in my head. So grit, you gain a chance to ignore damage that would otherwise kill you. In addition to not taking damage from the attack, you will instantly regen half of your maximum health. At 5 out of 5, you have 20% chance of ignoring death. What's your take on grit?
So a lot of people think this this single skill is what gives Axton the advantages over other characters. Um, and I agree, it's a pretty amazing skill because, first of all, just ignoring death, that's pretty badass. But
Mm-hmm.
it has a pretty weird stacking mechanic, which I'm not 100% sure how it works, but once you proc it, I think the chances of it proccing again get higher. Or
Yep.
it kind of has a cooldown on.
I was trying to proc it there and I failed.
uh, yeah. I'm not really sure how exactly it works, but it can get pretty ridiculous, and it can also get boosted.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, it seems. I mean, it could just be again confirmation bias that we're all weak to, but yeah, it seems when people do boost it up to 40%, it works all the time. I kind of have some issues with it because um I just feel like if I'm proccing grit all the time, I'm playing poorly, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a tier 5. Like, if there's a skill like this at a tier 2 or 3, but to go all the way to tier 5 for this, when he's got so many good skills in the other two trees, that I just feel like I'm playing poorly if I need grit, and if I need boosted grit on top of that. Now, I mean, you can do kind of like a suicidal, really aggressive kind of play style with it, but the RNG of it also scares me too. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
it's going to work really awesome chain sometimes, but when I really need it, it's going to fail
Yeah,
me.
that's the problem I have with it as well, because you just can't rely on it. It's just random. So you can't
Mm-hmm.
really make a build around it, because sometimes it works and sometimes it's just like nope. So yeah, that's the problem I have with it. Um, but yeah, some people love this and I understand why.
Yeah. And then lastly, Gemini allows you to deploy 2 saber turrets. Once the first saber turret is deployed, you can press your action skill button again to deploy the second one, so you can get 2 of them out. I really like this, but I don't often get it just because his. I mean, that's beautiful right there. I mean, again, I want the slag turrets, and if I get this, I can't get all the skills I want in the gunpowder tree for his DPS.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem I have with it as well. Because I think, in my opinion, Gemini is just, I don't know. I kind of love turrets, as you probably know, and
Mm-hmm.
when I first saw Gemini, I was like, I need this skill right now, because I just love the idea of having 2 turrets at the same time. But the problem really
Mm-hmm.
just is, with most of my builds, I just can't get there because I need the skills from gunpowder, and then I also want double up, and then there's just not enough points to get that.
Yep. But it is so much fun to have 2 slag turrets out there, 2
Yeah,
nuke turrets. But Axton's got weird relationships with his, I think, capstones, in my opinion, because again, like the double nuke build is really cool, but then I miss out on some skills I want in the gorilla tree, and like having slag on your turrets is so huge that like losing that's such a big deal. And the people that love nuke, all right, cool, I get nuke, but I want 2 nukes. It's just there's always like a give and a take with his action skills, I guess. That
yeah,
it's I guess I always am somewhat challenged with Axton builds because of that. Where like I guess comparing it to like Zero, if I'm sniping, I'm not tempted to get the melee tree. But with Axton, like I'm always tempted to like want all 3 capstones.
but I guess you could argue that that's simply good skill tree design, because it makes you think about what you really want and what you really need
Yeah,
for
yeah,
your
yeah,
build
yeah.
and everything.
I mean, I really do think. I mean, we've gone over all of them here. I guess to recap the skill tree designs. I mean, outside of, well, I guess we had a few like laser sight, crisis management, ranger, and duty calls. Those are the only really bad skills he has out of all of his skill trees. And like duty calls isn't terrible. It's just not really good enough for the exception. Oddly enough, 2 of them are tier 5s.
Yeah,
But he's got so many really good skills that yeah, I mean, I think overall the skill trees are incredibly solid.
yeah, I agree with that. It's one reason why I love Axton, because I just think he's well designed.
All right, so do you have anything else to say on any of the skill trees?
Nope, not really.
All right, we've covered those. um let's I'm gonna respec here once again, and you want to start talking about some guns.
Yeah, sure.
All right. All right. So on Axton guns, we know he loves grenade bonuses and explosives. He doesn't boost explosives at all, but explosives are almost always boosted by grenade damage. One thing I wanted to cover with people before I dig into too many guns is since Axton doesn't have any critical hit buffs outside of his 5% on a Ranger, he's really good with high critical hit damage guns. So if you guys haven't watched my critical hit guide video, I'll link it. But I explained that um, base damage buffs, which Axton has a ton that we just went over, are great for your critical hit buffs because you kind of get that double multiply out of them. Um, I also went over that in really good detail with my sniper accessories, comparing the damage to the critical hit buff. So Axton, like in my hands here, the Hawkeye, Zero doesn't do well with the Hawkeye because he's got so many critical hit buffs that a Muck Muck does more. But on Axton, it's the opposite. Since he has so much base damage, he gets a lot out of your high crit guns. So Muck Muck, great sniper for him, but also the bitch, the Lady Fist. I know everyone makes the Lady Fist good, but he's really solid with the bitch, the Lady Fist. The Hail has a high critical hit bonus. So any really high critical hit damage guns, Axton excels with, beyond just explosive guns, like the Becca in your hand has a good critical hit buff.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite Axton guns you want to talk about? We won't do them all, obviously, but some of the staples.
I guess this one.
The Herald, yep.
So
And
yeah.
again, like everyone makes it good, but Axton just because he can boost the grenade damage on it, and it's got such high splash damage.
So yeah, as you said, Axton really loves guns with splash damage. So I guess things like the Omen, or I don't know. I have too many weapons with
Sword
me right now.
Explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously Ravagers for shotguns. I had the Blockhead with me because that gets grenade bonuses too. See, the Hail is one of my favorite on Axton's because it's an assault rifle, so he gets his assault rifle buffs on it. It's got 80% grenade damage, and it's elemental, so you can match elements and get a bone with it for the cooldown and that. It's got a big crit damage, and it's got unlisted projectiles, so it's good with the B if you want to use it with him. And with the B likes critical hit and splash damage boost, which it has. So to me, like the Hail is one of my favorite guns in Axton because he checks like every box that the Hail wants.
And on top of that, you also get the healing.
Yep, which makes him really hard to kill. Like the end of my assault rifle video, that's why I brought that against Badassosaurus Rex and just like melted him in no time at all with zero risk and not having to hide.
Yeah. But also, what's worth noting is that while he really likes guns with splash damage, Axton is one of the most versatile characters when it comes to gear. So you can pretty much use everything on him basically. Even sniper rifles, as you said, the Hawkeye, for example, is really good on him.
Yeah, or just any Jacobs ones in general, I think he loves because he cranks their base damage so up, and they have an increased critical hit of 160. But yeah, I love like the Hornet with him. Obviously, another splash damage one. I love Jacobs assault rifles on Axton because all his recoil reduction. One of their biggest drawbacks is recoil and magazine size, and they have somewhat slow reload too, and he fixes all those things. So I think he's a total monster with Jacobs assault rifles.
Yeah, there's
even when duty call isn't that great.
There's just so many things you can do with him, and as I said, a lot of versatility. And then one thing he really excels at are guns like these, TDO guns, because he pretty much has boosts for everything that TDO wants. Grenade damage, of course, then a ton of reload speed, magazine size with class mods, And
Yep.
yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that if you want to use TDO weapons, Axton is your best bet.
Yep.
Because, as I said, he just does everything a TDO weapon wants. But of course,
Yep.
you can just use anything you want, really.
Yeah, with the TDR stuff, it's good to mention that there's some talk lately that Axton doesn't have that one overpowered thing, but TDR reloads for him is kind of that one overpowered thing. Like,
Yeah.
and with him, it's not one thing; it's like a bunch of skills coming together. But if you go and look at the time trials, a lot of Axton's kills on about half the raid bosses are time trial kills, where you can literally kill raid bosses in seconds.
Yeah. I've
With
done that
him.
plenty of times.
Yeah. Your name is all over the trial boards for Axton. So yeah, you definitely know it. But that's worth mentioning. So like, if you guys want a raid boss, Axton's a really good character for most of them. I mean, he's a little weak on Terra, right?
Yeah, that's because Terra, as Terra scales with OP levels, he gains grenade damage resistance for some
Yep.
fucking reason. So that's one thing noting, but things like Hyperius, Chromarex, Voracidus, he can just melt them.
Yeah. Doesn't he's the
Pete's shield
fastest
as
at
well.
Hyperius, right?
What was that?
Doesn't Axton have some of the best Hyperius times?
Yeah, 2 seconds on Hyperius.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty damn impressive. And that's faster than boar kills. Boar kills take more setup than that.
Yeah. And it's arguably also more reliable. Because with Boar,
Yeah.
it's just kind of random. The thing
Sometimes he derps out.
you with Boar, all you need is a gun and a singularity grenade, while with TD or Axton you kind of need some specific gear like the Avenger.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. But if you're raid bossing, I don't think needing specific gear is a drawback, because that's part of raiding. So for shields are tough on Axton because he just makes every shield amazing. So it's kind of like any good shield is even better on Axton. You know, obviously the blockade and antagonist, he's really good with the B because he can really, increase its or get rid of its recharge delay, which is its biggest drawback. I like the evolution on him, obviously, because I like health stacking stuff for the fun. The sham, he's really great with, because the sham's got tiny capacity, and he helps fix that and helps it always stay up. Big Boom Blaster, I think a lot of people love on him.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons of more grenades and more rockets.
The Big Boom Blaster on the sham, especially with quick charge, because for them you just need them to be up with some kind of capacity. It doesn't matter how much, and quick charge fixes that.
So if you're not at endgame with Axton and you're leveling up, what shields do you prefer to go to for him?
It kind of really depends, I guess. When I was leveling him up for the first time, I always picked turtle shields because I just love the huge capacity. But thinking about it, you might actually want to go for a TDO shield or maybe even a Vladov shield.
Just for that insane speed?
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
But of course,
I was going to say turtle shields would be my favorite.
Yeah,
with him,
I was gonna get to that as well.
Get him back.
Because the turtle shields obviously lack the recharge delay and recharge rate, and he can easily fix that.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, depending on parts, they're not terrible on those things, but they're not great either. But yeah, he can make them insanely fast.
Yeah, I guess it really comes down to what you prefer, because he can just make everything work aside from maybe a Void Shield.
Yeah. All right, that's a fair point. I don't think there's too much more on shields for him. Grenades. Once again, he's kind of like that with grenades too. He just makes all grenades awesome, right? The fastball, I think, takes special mention, obviously, because it's the fastball, and it's the most powerful, probably single damage source grenade. Well, It's really the only single damage source grenade, but yeah, it hits so damn hard and he can crank the damage up so big.
Yeah.
Do you often do you have a trouble using other grenades with him now that the fastball's so good?
Not really, to be honest. I find myself using things like the Fire Bee or the Crossfire a lot, or the
Okay.
Stormfront. They all do
Yeah,
work.
I love Stormfront with him.
I guess the thing about the fastball is that it's a single target grenade, and if you have a bunch of trash mobs, you could prefer something like a Fire Bee just because you don't need that insane damage on every single enemy.
So
But in general, yeah, the fastball definitely it's the best grenade.
I see a lot of Axtons rocking magic missiles, and I do it from time to time as well. This video I did it, but between his turrets and his swap speed, if you do the swap speed, and the thing is like the Slega, do you find yourself not using Slag grenades as often with him as maybe with some other characters?
Well, I I use them quite often. Not a magic missile, but slag transfusions. Just
Okay.
because he just works with every kind of grenade. It doesn't matter if you want it to deal damage or just for utility. Because of Grenadier. So
Yep.
you can chuck out
The
quite a lot of
regenerating
them.
thing is less of a big deal for him.
And sure, you have your swap speed and your turrets, but I don't know. It's just more slag, I guess.
Yep. All right.
It's
No,
not
that's a
always
fair enough
needed,
point.
but yeah, I often find myself using slag grenades.
All right. And then relics. What are your favorite relics with him?
Well, I guess obviously elemental relics because
Yeah,
with
the
all of his
bones.
additive buffs, it just gets crazy. Because
Yep.
they multiply that. But other
And
than
then
that,
obviously he loves the cooldown for the bone as well.
yeah, other than that, I really like Allegiance relics, like the Torg relic, because Torg weapons are usually something you use quite often on Axton if you go for grenade damage and stuff. So
Hmm.
those work really well. Um, I don't know, I guess things like the Sheriff's Badge or the Deputy's Badge. Um, and I guess also, as you mentioned earlier, things for health regeneration and stuff like that, or max health.
Do you ever go some stockpile stuff with him just to go stupid amount of grenades? Get up to like 20 grenades? Or is that just too
Um,
much overkill?
Not really. It depends. If I'm going for something like a rocket launcher build, for example, then that's definitely really helpful. But for grenades, I think just with Grenadier, and if you're using a Grenadier class mod and you boost that,
That's plenty.
and on top of that you have a big boom blaster shield, you don't really need more grenades.
All right.
And yeah, I also don't think, aside maybe from TDO weapons, you're fine with your standard ammo pools on him.
Okay. And then lastly, are you ready to talk about class mods? Or do we need a break first?
No, we can talk about them.
All right, let's go for class mods. That's always the fun one. So let's start with our legendaries. Wait, I had all my legendaries. I think I'm missing some. Do you have them all on you? Oh, there we are. I'm sorted by brand.
Um,
All right, I do
I
have them.
I do have 3 of them.
All right, so all right, let me just resort here. All right, class mods. So the legendary soldier would be first, right?
I guess if you don't want to
All
start
right.
with the Terramorphous one.
No, fuck that. All right, so legendary soldier. You have cooldown rate at 47% max, gun damage a flat 39%, 22% fire rate, and then we're boosting sentry, ready, impact, expertise, healthy, and preparation. I love this one personally, just because it buffs so many things. The passives are amazing. With 3 really good passives of cooldown rate, damage, and fire rate. And I mean, I kind of like all this tier 1 stuff, and I might only put 1 point in some of them, but I'm okay with that because it's just solid buffs.
Yeah, and he also has one more skill compared to the other class mods instead of
Yep.
something special
Yep.
like
Yeah, a lot of them only have 5.
movement speed with Maya or something.
Yep. Yeah, and sometimes I would rather have the 5th skill than some of that stuff.
Yeah. And I guess it's really just one of his absolute best class mods in the game because it's like it works with everything. You can just use anything on it. It doesn't really specify for any kind of build. Of course, it's a gun class mod with the fire rate and the gun damage, but you have boost for your turret, you have survivability, you have damage, so it's just all around good, and yeah, not much more to say about it, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, just universally. I mean, 9 good buffs on it. Toss these out as I do them. Next would be Slayer of Terra. So this one, burn damage, which is only dots, not fire damage. Ignite chance, max health, and the max health on these comms. I'm going to say it again in case people haven't watched these other videos. This max health comes outside of the health formula. It comes last. So if you have healthy, healthy doesn't boost this buff. This buff is added after your percent multipliers, which makes it really kind of crappy for health stacking. But the skills are Sentry, Ready, Impact, Expertise, and Healthy. So it boosts 5 of the same skills as the Legendary comm, and it doesn't do Preparation like the Legendary, and then they're all max +4 instead of +5. And Healthy is not as good as Preparation, which you already said. And the boosts, I don't think, are that good. So yeah, I hate this thing.
It's really, compared to other class mods, it's just trash, and there's no situation where you would prefer it over anything else. The only thing I guess you could use this is if you're currently leveling up and you don't have anything better and you just happen to kill Terramorphous and this
Yeah.
drops. You might just want it because it boosts awesome skills.
Mm-hmm.
But the passes on it's just nonsense pretty much because
It drives me nuts that they did Healthy instead of Preparation.
but yeah, the passives as well.
Are kind of pointless.
Yeah, he doesn't want elemental stuff at all.
Yeah, it does very little for him. So next, do you have a preference of point man, engineer, or ranger you want to cover?
Not really.
All right, so point man's first in my list, so that one. So this one's passives are health regeneration per second and max health, which has that same issue with max health. And I guess before I go to the skills, I don't like the class mods with health regen per second because it's a static number and not a percent.
Yeah.
And that static number is always really low. Like it might sound like a lot, but it's not.
Especially if you health stack.
Yep. So the skills are able, healthy, last ditch effort, pressure, and grit. And I said I love able. Healthy, I'm okay with. Last ditch effort, I don't really often get, but in this, I'd put 1 point. Pressure is great and grit's great, but this is the only DPS on here is reload speed from pressure and fight for your life and last ditch effort. I think it needs some kind of DPS to balance it out better.
Yeah. It's just pure survivability and that doesn't really always work.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into that like DPS debate, but Axton is on the lower side of DPS typically, outside of like chucking and some of that stuff, compared to some of the other classes. So to go with a pure survival comm with him, it just really kind of hurts that. And like Maya's nurse comm, I think is okay as kind of a pure survival thing because she can play that support role, but Axton can't. And that's where I think this thing, especially the passives, which aren't very good on it, neither one of them go with health stacking, yet this is boosting health stacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that should have been something different, like a legendary rifleman or a legendary grenadier.
Yep. I'm definitely with you on
And
that.
if you're going to make a survival comp for Axton, it should have been something for shields, like maybe,
Yes.
I don't know, a tactician maybe. I'm not quite sure how good the tactician is. I never use it, but maybe you could make something out of that.
Yeah. I think we're in agreement there. Ranger next then. So Ranger has a passive recharge rate plus 56 at max stats, I believe, and 35% delay. Both of those awesome to have passively, and that's a pretty good numbers for him, I think. And then it boosts onslaught, which is awesome. Impact, which is really solid. Metal Storm, which is amazing. Ranger, which you can throw 1 point in, and then Quick Charge, which is really awesome. This is one of my favorite comms, I think, because you have two passive survivals, and then you have another survival skill, and then three really solid DPS skills, and then a kind of a fifth miss skill. But yeah, I mean, I think this thing is just a great DPS comm.
Yeah, it's definitely Axton's DPS comp.
And
Um,
yeah, oh,
it's
I'll let you go.
also one of my favorite comps because with this you have this kill skill play style because you always want to keep your free kill skills up to get the most out of the class mod, and I really enjoy making builds for this class mod. And the passives can also translate into DPS because you have more survivability, of course, but it also works well with a B shield, and the B shield also loves the fire rate and quick charge, of course. Um,
Mm-hmm.
really, the only problem I have with it is Ranger, and that maybe should have been Battlefront just to really push that DPS to insane levels.
That
Um,
would have been crazy.
but yeah, other than that, it's just a great com in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah, Rangers, it's downfall, but that's not the end of the world. Usually, you're deep enough in that tree just to kind of throw that 1 point there.
Yeah,
Um, and I want to reiterate on what you said about the increasing DPS with the survival. I say that all the time in my videos that if you have some good survival combined with DPS, you can stay in the fight and you don't have to retreat behind cover as often, or you don't have to swap to a Moxie gun to heal. You can just stay in the fight and keep hitting with your powerful weapons. So survival can actually increase DPS, not so much on paper, but in real gameplay.
yeah,
And then the engineer, which is another class mod I like quite a bit. So 50% cooldown rate at max stats, I believe. That's pretty solid. Very solid, actually.
yeah.
And then we are hitting Sentry, Able, Impact, Battlefront, and Resourceful. Which, again, I think this is a really solid comm. It hits so many good things. Again, Able being boosted is crazy good, in my opinion. Impact is just very solid and always on. Battlefront's obviously killer. And the cooldown rate from this thing, like if you combine this and if you do max out Resourceful and Wear a Bone, I mean, your cooldown is insanely fast.
Uh, yeah. So, um, what I really like about this class mod is that you have this synergy between the skills. If you look at Resourceful, Sentry, and Battlefront, Both
Mhm.
Sentry and Resourceful help Battlefront, which then gives you more damage. Then you have more survivability with Able, and again more damage with Impact. And also the passive really helps Battlefront. The single problem I have with this class mod is that it's really just outshined by the Soldier in my opinion. Because I don't know, the Soldier is kind of his absolute top tier weapon for top tier class mod for gun builds, unless you're going for
Mhm.
something really specific. Um, so that's kind of its downside, I guess. But therefore, because it boosts Battlefront, you can kind of make a hybrid build with this class mod. So you can go for gun damage and grenade damage and use both to your advantage. So that's
Mhm.
where it kind of shines. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have sometimes trouble fitting it. I usually either go with the ranger or the soldier. Um, so I'm going to start going through his regular ones now. Rifleman. So assault rifle magazine size up to 53%. Assault rifle gun damage up to 47%. And then impact, onslaught, and battlefront. I really like this com. I don't think it's quite as good as Maya's cat com for SMGs because her passive damage buff is just so ridiculous on that, having a negative to balance it out. But I don't know. I mean, Battlefront's awesome, Onslaught's awesome, Impact is really solid. Combined with the passive, I mean, it seems like a really good class mod. But I guess sometimes the legendaries or the Tiny Tina comps could probably outdo it. So I don't know.
Uh,
What's your take on it?
Actually, I've done a lot of comparisons with the Rifleman, and just
Mm-hmm.
for assault rifles, it's actually the best class mod Axton has. Um, it's
Okay.
it's damage wise, it outperforms the soldier. In terms of survivability and turret and stuff, it obviously doesn't. But just
Yeah.
for DPS, it outperforms the soldier and also Tiny Tina class mods and all of that. I really think this one should have had a legendary version that would have been really cool in my opinion.
Yep.
Um, Maybe it doesn't even need to be something like the cat with like 138%
Yeah.
gun damage. That's kind of crazy, but just a legendary
So no,
version with better stats and more skills that would have been really cool in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm not going to do this for every class mod, but if you were going to make it legendary, what two skills would you add to it?
um, I don't know. I thought about overload, but then again, you really don't need it because you
That's
already have.
over.
Yeah, that's pretty much just overkill. Maybe Metal Storm to just complement Onslaught a bit more. Um, I'm not quite sure actually. Something for survivability would be nice, of course, because you have those free
Yeah,
DPS
that's what I was thinking.
skills. So maybe,
Like a
maybe,
preparation or able, and then another DPS.
yeah.
All right, fair enough. Just curious. Next would be veteran. I don't know what order these are actually in, just whatever order they're popping up first. Passes here are reload size, and then it boosts last ditch effort and pressure. I'm not the biggest fan of this one, to be honest. It just kind of seems random. I
I
don't really get the point of it.
I'm quite the opposite actually.
Is it a good TDR one? Oh, it's probably
It's
a damn good TDR one,
it's
isn't
the
it?
perfect TDR com.
Okay, yeah, I just totally missed that until I'm like, wait,
Yeah,
reload, Meg, and steady.
this is also
Okay,
a com I think where a legendary version would have been really cool. Because you have magazine size, reload speed, grenade damage. It's just perfect all around.
yeah, if it somehow got like Battlefront as well for more grenade damage. Now, on
Yeah.
this one, would you do a blue one with like steady and pressure over a purple?
Um. Yeah. I usually use blue ones because I think it was last
Okay.
ditch effort it boosts, which doesn't
Yeah,
do anything
you
for
don't really
TDO
need that.
weapons.
So the unstoppable point man, the non-legendary version, yeah, same thing: health regen and max health, grit, pressure, and alert. So I'm not a big fan of this one once again,
Yeah.
unless
It's
you're doing like your grit spam at +6 grit, which is legit. But
You could also use a Tiny Tina class mod for that.
use a what?
A Ranger class mod from the Tiny Tina DLC.
Yeah, that's a good point. That would be better, anyways. So yeah. So that one after that, I don't think really has a point at all.
I
Shock
guess.
Trooper. So this one's. Oh, sorry, should have moved on already.
Yeah, just a little thing. I guess you can say that it does have a use in terms of glass tanking, with your Y turtle shield and instant health regen.
Yeah, that is a
But
thing.
that's really not something you do all the time because you really need some very specific items for that.
Yeah, that's kind of a niche thing. But that I mean
Yeah,
that's a valid point to bring up is when you have the passive healing. If you guys don't know, watching this, often white turtle shields in OP8 can bring your health so low that that passive health regen from those comms is enough to put you past health gate every single second. So outside of dots and sometimes some splash weapons, you're virtually indestructible.
yeah.
So Shock Trooper next. This is a weird one for me. I don't really get this one. Shock damage resists plus electrocute damage, which again is only shock dots, not shock damage. Then +5 to Metal Storm, Quick Charge, and Onslaught. So the skills are pretty good. I mean, obviously Onslaught's awesome, Metal Storm's awesome, and Quick Charge is really awesome. So it's a really good com, but I just don't know where the shock stuff comes from.
Yeah. I think the passives are just unnecessary, but in terms of skills, it's kind of um your non-red text ranger, um
Yeah.
with your kill skill play style and all that. But
Hmm.
yeah, with the passives it has, those are not really something you want for Axton.
So if you're leveling up and you're not to that point where you obviously can get all these legendary comms, is this what like is almost this premier DPS com for regular gun builds?
It's pretty solid. Um, I guess for just using guns while leveling up, I might actually prefer a veteran just because
Okay.
the reload speed and the magazine size really helps.
Yeah.
But if you want to go for a kill skill build while leveling up, you can use that. But of
The other thing I
course,
like about this, they're all tier 2 and 3, so it's not hard to get to them.
yeah, but of course, um, you also won't always be able to play in just a kill skill manner and keep killing things in boss
Yeah.
fights especially.
Although most bosses do have some kind of minions to kill, don't they? There's not a ton of
Yeah, I
bosses. I mean,
guess.
there are some, but most have them at some point. Next one would be the Expert Grenadier. Obviously, this is an awesome com. Grenade damage, explosive damage resistance, which is, nice. Stacked in Grenadier. So obviously, this is a great one for grenade builds. When you do this, which do you go blue or purple? And which skill do you lead off with for the higher boost?
So it kind of depends. If you're going for a pure grenade build, I would go with a blue version. But if you also want to use guns, you can go with a purple version and also get impact.
Okay.
And then you can decide between 11 out of 5 in either steady or grenadier. And I used to always go for steady just to max out the damage, but with a fastball, those 5% is definitely not needed, and it
Fair
helps
enough.
more to have one more grenade.
All right, that's a good point. I was thinking, yeah, that would be over grenade count, but yeah, that's a good point. An extra 5% with a grenade like that is not much. But yeah, obviously this is your grenade com. I like it. It's pretty well done. I mean, that would have been another one. I think it would have been cooler if they would have done a legendary version of
Yeah.
that. And again, add Battlefront to it and whatever else. Specialist, another weird one. SMG accuracy is the passive, which is
Yeah,
just
that
strange.
one.
The skills are ready, duty calls, and forbearance. I do not understand this class mod at all.
Yeah, in my opinion, this is the single worst class mod Axton has.
All right, good. I'm not alone. Like, I mean, Jacobs doesn't even make assault rifles, or SMGs. So the duty calls thing with an SMG com that only boosts SMG accuracy that isn't really needed. And like ready is cool for SMGs, but they already have fast reload speed, and forbearance is kind of random on there. This thing is trash. Don't ever use it.
There's a single gun in this game that actually benefits from it, which is the Lascar. I think it's pronounced. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
Lascal.
even then, just use a legendary soldier and you're.
I mean, I guess like the Bone Shredder or the Tatler, but that's a pretty. You'd still be better off with better other class mods.
Yeah, with those you can just use an element and
Yep.
you're better off.
Yeah. Heavy Gunner. So that's team fire rate, which is a cool team buff, obviously. And then Overload, Steady, and Metal Storm. I don't really like having Overload on a non-assault rifle com boosted. It limits it. I mean, I guess you can go with a blue one. I mean, a blue version of this with Steady and Metal Storm is pretty awesome. And the team fire rate passive is obviously always helpful.
Yeah. Especially.
Have you ever played around with 4 Axtons running this?
I actually did. We made a speed kill of Urashidus using the sawball, and all of us were using heavy gunners, and it was just insane.
Nice.
He went down in I think 30 seconds or something, which is just
That's
insane.
pretty beautiful.
But
So,
yeah,
this
with the skills it has, you have Steady and Metal Storm, which both help with the recoil reduction, so that's pretty nice, I think.
Oh yeah, I didn't even really catch that.
And if you happen to use an assault rifle, you can obviously also get overload, and you can just get the most out of that crazy fire rate.
Yeah. So that's fair enough. So yeah, I guess there's use case for the purple version. Impact Rifleman, or the Rifleman com. Assault. Wait, I already did this one, didn't I? I did.
Yep.
I have 2 of those. All right, I had 2 of those on me. Frontline Tactician team. So yeah, this is the purple version of the legendary. So shield recharge rate and delay again, and this has got Battlefront, resourceful, and preparation. Which I don't know. I don't really know what to think about this one. I mean, it's cooldown, survival, and DPS, and shield recharge. It doesn't seem very focused, but it seems like everything on it is pretty good.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. I can't remember the last time I actually took a look at that class mod, but it sounds pretty well rounded, I guess.
Yeah, it just lacks focus, I guess. And I think that's something Borderlands 2 didn't do the greatest on compared to the pre-sequel, or
Yeah.
they just got better at it in the pre-sequel. They seem to be more focused class mods. Frontline Engineer. Obviously, there's a legendary version of this. This one has got Sentry, Battlefront, and Resourceful. So again, 3 good skills and cooldown rate. Yeah, I mean, pretty solid. I would probably go with a blue one and skip Sentry, and maybe get +6 in Battlefront and +5 in Resourceful if I was going to do this. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you find yourself using this much before the legendary?
Not really, to be honest. Not at all.
Never. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just there's probably better class
Yeah,
mods.
kind of like
And
the
it seems
tactician,
solid.
I guess.
Yeah.
For leveling
I mean,
up,
there's a fair amount of
if
those.
you don't have anything better, I guess it's pretty solid.
And at least it has focus of like the double cooldown rate. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and it still has Sentry and Battlefront. So actually, this one is pretty well focused if you like turret builds and you can't get a legendary comm yet.
Yeah, I guess then in the early game when you can really make the turret deal a lot of damage, that can be pretty solid.
And then the last Tiny Tina's class mods. The skills are Impact, Ranger, and Grit. How do you feel about these for Axton? Like, I know the passes are really awesome. They can customize those. I like going with the critical hit ones because he doesn't have any critical hit buffs, but I don't love the skills.
Yeah, me neither. So I think it definitely does have its uses, but Ranger, for example, it's just again, it's the problem it mainly has, I guess, is if you go with a purple version, you have to go down both survival and gunpowder, and you can't get double
Which
up
means
anymore. And
Yep.
that already holds it back. So you want to go with a blue version, and I don't know. The passives it has is obviously really great. Impact is great. Grid is also nice, but it's just so far down the tree. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't use
Hard
it
to
very
get
often.
to on a lot of builds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ranger you just don't, and you can throw that 1 point in there, and again, it sucks that like it seems like some other characters got ones with really awesome skills and awesome. Obviously the
Cell,
passes
for
are
example.
sweet. Yeah, Sal, but even like Zeros has got really good passes on his, and
Gauge as well.
Yeah, I mean Maya's obviously got the worst of these in my opinion. Hers is fucking gutter trash, but I mean this one, I mean at least Impact is solid, but yeah, the other 2 skills are just they're tier 5s and they're not great. I mean Grit's great, but you can't always get to it. So yeah. I don't love this one for Axton.
By the way, I just looked it up. The speed kill we did with the 4 gunner comms is actually less than 17 seconds on Borderlands.
Jesus Christ, that's an OP8?
Yeah.
Or OP0?
Yeah,
Jesus,
OP8.
that's impressive.
And it wasn't even like perfect. It could have been better.
With 4 players, it's hard to get it perfect.
Yeah, that's why we didn't do it again.
Yeah, the saw bar is another gun worth mentioning because it gets grenade boost and it's an assault rifle.
It doesn't actually get grenade boosts.
Oh no, yeah, that's right. That is a Reaper gun. I forgot.
Yeah.
But yeah, he still gets a lot out of it. So yeah, that's all of his class mods. We talked about guns. We talked about his skills. Anything you want to say in summary?
Axton is fucking awesome. Yeah, but I guess we're done. If you don't want to say anything more.
Well, what some people might not realize, and I've said this a few times, but Axton, as far as we know, is the #1 played character in the Borderlands franchise. We found that out through the loot hunt. They put out like an infographic, and he was by far the most played character during the loot hunt. If you guys don't know what the loot hunt was, that was an event Gearbox did for Borderlands where a bunch of guns got buffed and like enemies would have a certain drop for a day, and we were challenged to kill a bunch of things and had a ton of people active during it. And Axton, again, most played character, but also in my The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly series, where I covered the legendary class mods, my most viewed one is Axton's, which was really surprising to me because I cover so much Maya. I didn't think that covering Axton's one would get more views, but whenever I do a video on Axton, they get great views. So Axton's got a massive fan base. So I really don't think you can say he sucks, because why would that many people be playing him and checking his stuff out? So yeah, he's a really well-rounded class. Like, one of the reasons I love Maya so much is she can use anything, and Axton and Maya are very similar in that way. And their DPS isn't as built up as some. Like, Maya doesn't have any kill skills for DPS, but she is phase lock DPS dependent, which is kind of similar. And it actually suffers some of the same boss issues. A boss without a minion, you can't get kill skills or phase lock often. So yeah, that's all I have on Axton. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you anything we said, please let me know. I welcome those in the comments, because no one is 100% expert on everything. And we just talked for a really long time, so mistakes can be made. We did this all in one take.
Yeah.
Also, go check out Damonite's channel. I will have that linked below and probably put up on some annotations throughout the video, because I brought him on here because I think out of everyone making content, he is the biggest Axton expert out there. But there's a bunch of other really good guys on the forums that know their Axton stuff, like John RR, Triad Thunder, and there's a really good Axton community there. So if you guys want to get into Axton discussions, and the forums aren't totally busy with Borderlands 2 topics now because it's over 4 years old, but if you go there and ask a question, people will answer the call. So,
and of course, also, if you're watching this on my channel, check out Derch.
Yep. Hopefully, yeah, I think we have a pretty good shared user base. But yeah, guys, go sub to Damonite, and yeah, that's all I got for this. So, ready to sign off, Damonite?
Yep.
Or anything else? All right, bye everyone.
See ya, everyone.